Hello, and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Thursday, 31 July. I'm your host, Daniel, and today we're going to talk about Ukraine arresting an Air Force officer for spying. Trump has imposed 25% tariffs on India. And Trump has also struck a deal with South Korea as the deadline looms. So firstly, Ukraine's domestic security agency has detained an Air Force officer on charges of having spied for Russia by leaking the location of their prized F-16 and Mirage 2000 fighter jets. The unidentified officer, a flight instructor holding the rank of major, stands accused of helping Russia to carry out strikes by providing coordinates and suggesting strike tactics, the security services of Ukraine said in a statement. So what? The SBU, or the Security Services of Ukraine, are likely working overtime at this point as the war drags on. Russian intelligence continues to try and either pressure or coerce Ukrainian military officers into supporting their war effort, likely using a wide range of tactics to try and get this done. However, luckily for them, they likely have the support of Western intelligence services who are using highly classified collection methods to identify where information is getting leaked from and what information is getting passed to Russia. There's also other things like, if you move your fighter jets and then suddenly they get struck by Russian ballistic missiles, you possibly got a leak. Things like that generally give up intelligence sources. So yeah, unsurprising, Ukraine's counterintelligence is working overtime at this point. And next, US President Donald Trump has confirmed a 25% tariff on Indian exports to the United States, as well as other financial penalties, to begin on August 1st. The decision came as the US and India have not yet reached a trade deal. Following Trump's announcement, the Indian government said it had taken note of the statement and would take all necessary steps to secure its national interests, and that it was committed to a fair and balanced trade agreement. India and Russia have had friendly ties despite Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Although the US, EU, and other nations have imposed sanctions on Russia, India has not joined in these punitive economic measures. Trump's criticism of the Indian Moscow-friendly stance comes as the US president becomes more skeptical of Russian President Vladimir Putin's willingness to end the invasion of Ukraine and commit to peace. Trump on Monday set a 10-day deadline for Russia to achieve a ceasefire deal with Ukraine, or else Moscow will face secondary sanctions. So what? These secondary sanctions, to me, are the only real step left to take to try and damage Russia's economy. You somehow need to get India to stop buying cheap Russian oil. Something that they're not going to do without some significant threats, because why would you? It's fucking cheap. But yeah, the 25% tariffs for no trade deal, tariffs seem to be a bit wild, as they generally just cost the US importers and people just end up not buying shit and ruining both economies. So who knows? I don't really know what things the US buys from India. I'm sure I read the other week that India was going to be Apple's go-between to try and get around the Chinese sanctions. So I don't really know what's going to happen there. It'll be interesting. The US definitely seems to be picking up their pressure on countries that are supporting Russian war efforts and the Russian economy. And finally, US President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that Washington will slap a 15% tariff on goods coming into the country from South Korea, a lower rate than the 25% duty he had threatened earlier. The new levy puts South Korea on par with other US trading partners like Japan and the European Union, which have also secured similar trade deals with Trump. Trump touted it as a full and complete trade deal between the US and South Korea. He said Seoul had agreed to buy $100 billion worth of US energy products, including liquefied natural gas. So what? I think Trump is being quite aggressive against his so-called partners in Asia, um, putting tariff rates on Japan and South Korea when they're your closest allies in the region and countries you would almost certainly require the support of if a war between China and Taiwan kicks off. So, like, to put in these, like, essentially punitive measures seems wild. Also, just on the whole tariff thing, it seems highly likely that the next US president is just going to fucking delete all of these. So the kind of long term goal of like rebuilding the US economy because of it isn't really going to work unless whoever comes in after Trump is of a similar manner and is very clear that they're not going to change them. But yeah, like this just seems fucking crazy. Just pushing countries away, just like destroying all the soft power that the US had built up over years. And yeah, it just doesn't really make sense to me. So, oh well, I guess that's the way of the world. Thank you for listening to the Intel Brief. I have been your host, Daniel, and I will see you again tomorrow. See you.